Hello everybody, this is Mong004 and welcome back to my channel, and today we will be doing another discussion video about Annapurna's Stray. Now my discussion videos are just simply my opinion about the game. It's not a typical review video, and nor am I ever trying to tell anyone to purchase a product or not to purchase a product. I just simply make these videos having a subjective opinion and subjective discussion about my experience with any particular game that I've played, so nothing more than that. Now, I hope all of you go on to enjoy this video, and if you do, please remember, hit the like button, please subscribe, hit that bell to be notified the next time I publish a video, and hit me up in the comments section and let me know what you think. It is great to get your feedback. Also, at the same time, check out my other videos. I do make a variety of different gameplay videos, and that's because I do play a variety of different games. And while you're at it, if you can, please share this video on your socials. I'd greatly appreciate it. And now, let's get into this video with my discussion about Annapurna's Stray. The game starts off with it raining and pouring while our little cat friend and cat friends are lying and playing down in a dingy sewer, but eventually we get up and we go and have a little social connection with other cats down there. And of course, when I say a social connection, I mean in a kitty cat type way social connection. You eventually get a little tired, and then you find a group of cats laying around, and you eventually lie down and go to sleep, only to be woken up later on by a butterfly. I think this is the butterfly that woke you up, that annoying little butterfly. You stretch, and you eventually follow the cats as they walk off to go on a little adventure down the sewerway. And this is when you discover you're in a place called Inside the Wall. Now, this is a hint to what the rest of this game is about. But moving on. Here you roam around the sewer with the other cats, running along pipes, jumping across small spaces, and pretty much gaining a tutorial on how to navigate the environment. And with the on-screen prompts like pressing A to jump onto something or to jump off of something, it pretty much teaches you some of the basic navigation skills you'll need throughout the rest of the game. Heck, the game even teaches you to learn how to stop and get a little drink. And hey, getting a drink is useful for everybody, even for a little kitty cat. Yup. Later on in our travels, all the little cats come to a broken pipe with a big gap between the middle of it. As our favorite little cat tries to jump across, the pipe breaks, the cat slips and falls down onto a slope, leaving the cat to struggle, hanging on for its dear life, and as all the other cats watch, the young cat falls down to a deep, dark black hole. The young cat is eventually knocked unconscious, but after waking up a few moments later, we slowly limp our way through the dingy and dirty sewers, trying to find our way out. However, as a security light comes on, next to some big black trash bags, we start to realize there's a little more going on down here than might seem normal. We make our way to and through the big red door and into a place called Dead City, which ultimately is one of the first places in understanding the general structure of the environments we'll actually be traversing, along with the fact that we'll see a few things scurrying about on the floor. Again, this place ain't all that darn normal. Heck, we even discovered this nosy little camera right here. Mind your own business, camera. We see some more insect-like things crawling across the ground, and we eventually come upon what seems like a dead robotic body, more hinting at things that we will learn soon enough. There's even a red, glitchy neon sign that slowly spells out the word help and points in a specific direction for us to go. And yes, even more glitchy signs and displays telling us where to go. We enter a room and eventually find ourselves an object, and this eventually teaches us how to use specific objects to solve a puzzle, because ultimately this room has a puzzle where we have to actually use this bucket that we have to block this fast-moving fan. I mean, come on, we wouldn't want our little kitty friend going through that fan while it's going really fast and getting cut up, now would we? Plus, if we were dead, we wouldn't be able to have the chance to be naughty enough to knock over a couple of cans of paint. You see, knocking over the paint was actually useful, so it's not too naughty, other than the fact that we made a big mess in this room. And destroying whoever's rug this is. Man, they're going to be pissed off when they find out what the heck happened to their apartment. I mean, seriously. After quenching our thirst a little bit more, we ride our way back down to the street in this bucket, and continue to make our way through the streets while still getting symbols of where to go. We approach another robot seemingly being eaten by some more of those insect type things. They scurry away, and then as we approach the robot, we realize the thing is still functioning, and we're surprised and jump back. However, while attempting to interact with the thing, the robot looks at us and then drops dead. We scurry away and eventually make our way further down the alley. However, we run into an entire gang of those insect-like things, and we are not happy, and it does not look good for the kitty cat at all. At this point, the little kitty cat has to get its butt moving, running around corners, running downstairs, dodging left, dodging right, things hopping all over us, running upstairs, and just trying our best to get the heck away from these darn things. And don't let them catch you, because if they do catch you, it's done. At the same time, this is also giving you a tutorial. If the things jump onto you, you have to smash the B button to relieve yourself of them, or whatever proper corresponding button depending on your setup or the peripheral that you're using. I was using a controller right here, because if they don't, like you saw before, they'll kill you, and then ultimately you can keep running away. After running through the alleyways away from these treacherous things, you eventually come to a window that you can jump into, and thank God you are finally away from those things. After entering this apartment, you can thankfully scratch off all that ridiculous crap, along with probably a few fleas. My goodness. Oh, and plus we have to go that way. We also learn that we can choose to meow by pressing the B button. After a bit more climbing, hopping over dangerous chasms onto dangerous planks, hopping onto and running across pipes, pushing this plank so that we can get across, meowing to actually solve this puzzle, we even come to another one of those really fast moving fans. We hop onto the floor, we pull the battery out of a socket, it stops the fan, and now we can freely go through the tunnel. Smart little kitty. Heck, we even take the battery with us. We enter a place called the Flat, which is pretty much an apartment. After walking into one of the rooms and surveying the apartment a little bit more, we eventually walk to the other side of the room with a computer and a very big monitor. Man, I would not want a computer monitor that darn big. Imagine the eye damage with something like that. But anyway, we walk across the keyboard and we eventually screw it a little bit, opening a sealed door on the other side of the apartment. Entering the room, you can notice a lot of communication devices, computers, and all types of technology. And ultimately, this room is a big puzzle. Like here, where you have to jump onto this lever, climb onto this shelf to grab this battery, and then eventually bring the battery back to this main computer. And you have to do this several times. This battery right here somehow magnetizes to my face. I don't know if I'm a superhero kitty or something, but let's keep moving until you actually bring enough batteries back and you can actually turn on the main computer system, which after turning on the main computer system, you ultimately open up a big door. We find another unconscious robot, maybe he's been drinking too much. We solve another puzzle by knocking over a box, grabbing a little thingy, taking it back to the main computer terminal, and discovering a brand new friend. After toying with the robot a little bit, the robot eventually wakes up and describes who it is. It was first surprised to actually see a cat roaming around the dead city, and then describes that it can't remember much of anything, and that its memory is a bit corrupted. It also tells us that it's been trapped in the network for a long time. It also lets us know that it once worked for a scientist, but for now you can call him B12. B12 lets us know about the dangers in the dead city and then tells us to follow him so we can get out of there. B12 grabs a key, tells us his battery's low, grabs something off of a shelf, and puts it onto our back that weighs so much that it's so heavy that we keel over on our side. We slouch our way out of there, and eventually we leave. B12 questions us if our backpack is too heavy for us, which of course it is, but at the same time, this is where we find out about our inventory system. We use the key that we got to get out of the flat. We find out about our little flashlight torch, which we use to find this code to put on this keypad. B12 tells us he knows where we need to go, and after hopping into this bucket and looking down below, looking at the strings of sludge and stuff going across the ground, you can clearly tell that there is something deeply unsafe about the rest of the city. And another example why they call this Dead City. Really going into the direction that B12 was trying to tell us how dangerous this place really is. We come to a painting on the wall with a palm tree, and B12 tells us to wait. He remembers the outside. B12 remembers the painting as a place that it promised someone it would go, but it doesn't remember who it promised. B12 takes the postcard, gives the postcard to us, wonders why he has a memory of this place, says let's go, and then ultimately this memory is stored in our inventory just like that key that we found earlier. And here we come to a translate point, or you can call them translate markers. I call them translate points, but either way. Now translate points are meant to be highlighted. Once you interact with them, they'll kind of tell you what direction to go, or give you some lore-like information. Like for instance, this one is letting us know that we're going to the safe zone inside the city. After running from some more of these deadly little pests, we enter a place called the slums. And while looking ahead, watching a person sweeping, they grow a little alarmed by our presence and then backs away, afraid of us, and then sets off an alarm. Dad, come on, we're a little kitty cat. We're not that darn bad. Chill. And this lets us know that we found the inhabitants of this place, but not everybody is all that happy to see us. Thankfully, however, we do come to a person in a red cloak who isn't too alarmed to speak with us. Dang, at least somebody's kind enough around here. B12 lets us know they speak their own language. Then the red cloaked person lets us know that we're not Zurks and that it's not familiar with our kind. The red cloaked person lets us know that we can stay there so long as we don't eat anyone, which personally at this point I realized that the Zurks were those things that were chasing us around and eating us and pretty much trying to eat us alive, and I don't know, I think I have a better name for them than Zurks because they do stuff like this. Anyway, the red cloak person thinks that B12 and Little Kitty Cat are cool and proceeds to call off the lockdown. As the alarms go off and the lockdown ends, all the people who were hiding inside in fear finally come out, not afraid of Little Kitty Cat anymore. Plus, thinking he was a Zurk and knowing how the Zurks are, I kinda don't blame them for being afraid. Those things are monstrous. We speak to the robot in the red cloak, whose name is Guardian, and he lets us know we look lost and asks us, what do we need? We take out the postcard that we got earlier and show it to him, and he tells us that's a picture of outside and that it's ridiculous. He also proceeds to tell us that an elevator that's in town isn't operating and everybody knows that except for outsiders. He lets us know all the outsiders are gone except for a person named Momo. Man, that's one heck of a name. He lets us know that we can try to talk to him, while also letting us know that Momo gave up on trying to leave. He lets us know that he lives up in that building with the orange neon sign. And then we get to see the sign. Look at that place, all the way the heck up there. And thus, we are now roaming around this new place called the slums. And this is where we begin to learn about the inhabitants, what this place is really made of, and really what to find here. The slums is like a small shanty town-like city that's quarantined from the outside. And considering how dangerous we know the outside is with all the Zurks, there's no wonder why they're quarantined inside this place. Now, although this place is filled with tin rooftops and it looks like a big shanty town, it is definitely not without color and personality. Heck, this place has enough personality that sometimes you can find some places to lay down and go to sleep and just be nice and comfortable. Heck, there's even a vending machine that I found that you can get a little energy drink out of. Why a little kitty cat would need an energy drink, I have no idea, but I'm quite sure it is unhealthy for the cat. And although the place is small, there are even signs for the different streets that you can go on. This also isn't the only quarantine place that you'll visit on your entire adventure. There are also other places that are quarantined too, that are a little bit different than the slums. One of the other places you can go to is called Midtown. And this place, although it looks a little slum-like the slums, there's also a little freaking hologram in the middle of town. I mean, a freaking hologram in the middle of town. I don't know, I think it looks a little bit better than the slums, just slightly. There's even a village in the tree down in the sewer called Ant Village. And this is one of the places that you'll spend the least amount of time in. However, it still is a pretty interesting place to see. Now, when it comes to the other two locations we just talked about, slums and Midtown are pretty much hub worlds where you'll meet different people. I mean, you'll meet different people in Ant Village too, but most of your time will be spent in the other places. But anyway, you'll also find different missions that you can go on, find a lot of the collectibles there are to find in the game, and at the same time, discover more of what this place has to tell when it comes to its story and its sense of character, especially with all the different people that live in these different hub worlds. And of course, speaking of people, yes, these people are not your average people, as you can see. There are no humans or no flesh-like beings inhabiting this world. As a matter of fact, they are all robots, or if anything, android-like robots. And yes, although they may be androids and although they may be very robotic with little computer faces and so on and so forth, that does not mean that any of them lack character. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of character in a lot of these people. So much character that they all have their different places and purposes in the story and even in the environment. And it's that part of the story that really helps you to really learn about the world that they live in, the different backstories that some of the characters have, and even some of the charm that brings to the story, or sometimes lack of charm, depending on the story that's being told, and why they exist in the first place, and even the different positions that they take in the story. There's characters like Azus, who's a merchant in the slums who you can do trade with. Then there's characters like Maruskir, who's a musician who you can find musical sheets for, and then he'll play the music for you. There's also Jacob, who owns the local bar, who I think is about to offer the little kitty cat some alcohol. There's also Seamus here that we're speaking to right now later on in the game. However, earlier we found him inside of Jacob's bar, slumped over the counter, and we just hop over him because it doesn't matter, he sleeps, so he ain't gonna know anyway. There's also the red cloaked person we met earlier, who I think is doing some Tai Chi or something with that staff. I don't know, I think we need to get the frick out of here before he hits us with that darn thing. And of course, there's Momo. We definitely can't forget about him because he actually plays a very important part in the story. Especially later on in the story when he takes us through a raft ride through a whole bunch of murky water. Man, this guy really knows how to show a kitty cat a good time, huh? Go Momo, we love you. Now, when it comes to the characters in this world, most of the characters get along and they have their own personalities for their own purposes. However, those personalities do not come without conflict when it comes to certain aspects of the world building. And some of that conflict comes from some of the robots or androids that are like the police, that are called Sentinels. Right here is one of the Sentinel police harassing a person about a character named Clementine. Even these two androids right here are talking about how ridiculous the Sentinel police can actually be and how much they harass people. There are even conspiracies that happen throughout the world. Take, for instance, this guy that we were told to find inside of his study, only to find him laid out dead amongst all of his books. It's a mystery how he died, but this does not look good. Even after sneaking into this jail cell, we find a dead android, and after searching his body, we find a police badge. What the heck is going on here? Now, personally, as far as I'm concerned, even this is a conspiracy. I mean, are you kidding me? This dude is the world's biggest klutz. That has to be some kind of conspiracy. Now, with meeting all these different characters, some of these characters will send you on simple missions, and some of them will send you on missions that are highly elaborate. Take, for instance, a mission by that character Clementine that we heard about earlier. Clementine has a plan to use the old subway she's been working on for a while now. She even has a key to start the old train. All she needs is an atomic battery to power it. And she knows the Nico Corporation has one secured inside their factory. She lets us know that she has a contact that can actually help us infiltrate the factory. She doesn't know him by name, but that he has a bomber jacket and a golden chain. And then she tells us to give him this message. She also reminds us that we're small and swift and we should have no problem getting inside of that factory. We know that, Clementine. Thank you very much. We meet up with her contact and his name is Blaze. We show him the note that she gave us, and he begins to brief us about the atomic battery. He lets us know the battery is powering the NeoCorp factory, and that they check every person who enters the place. Then he lets us know that we need a worker jacket and a worker helmet, pretty much as a disguise to get inside. So now B12 and the kitty cat are off to get a worker helmet and a jacket. First, we go for the worker helmet. We head over to this hat shop where one of the workers is actually upset because his friend hasn't returned to actually help him with some of these boxes and getting him inside of the store. And we're going to need his friend to return and help him to distract the guy at the front door because the guy in the front door won't let us in. So we get chased away, we go off to the local bar looking for the lazy worker. We find the lazy worker in the back of the bar knocked out drunk on this table, but us being the nice little kind little kitty cat that we are, we climb up on the shelf and knock some beer bottles onto his head to wake him up. Not that he hasn't had enough beers already, but these are at least the ones that'll be able to help him. Ultimately, he stumbles out of the bar and takes his lazy butt back to work so he can help us get this darn hat. After getting back to work, he argues with his co-worker about how lazy he is, but who cares about that? He eventually picks up a box and gets back to work. And that's a good thing, because now we can find our way inside of this darn shop. We hop into one of the boxes and proceed to be picked up by him so that we can be brought into the store. The hat shop worker brings the box into the store, puts it on the floor, and then we hop out to take a good look around. We use a little B12 magic and grab the hard hat. Scratch the rug up a little bit to show our frustration, then make our way out this little trap door, which I really don't know why this little trap door is here, but it doesn't matter. We gotta go and get that jacket, so it's time to get the worker jacket. We arrive at the local clothing store. We can see the worker jacket right inside the window, along with some better looking jackets. We speak to Ozzy, the person who runs the place, and he asks us if we're one of those kids who've been playing loud music all day. Then he tells us not to touch anything. Oh, don't you worry, sir, we won't. At least not at the moment. So we head over to an apartment building where we see some young robots just hanging out. We try to sneak up and steal some cassette tapes, but then we're stopped by their owner named Simon. He says he'll give us one if we help out him, his friend Genma, and his friend Miko. Simon lets us know that the Sentinels have installed 3 security cameras that watch over them. He says he'll give us one of the cassette tapes if we help liberate them from these pesky security cameras. Well, we're definitely getting our exercise today because we go up to each floor and one by one we push each camera out of alignment, rendering them dysfunctional and thankfully helping these people out. We head back down to Simon and he thanks us for our work. Then he gives us the cassette tape and then they proceed to play some of the corniest music I probably ever heard in my entire life. We head back to the clothing store and put the cassette inside of the radio in the back of the store. The corny music annoys Ozzy, so he heads to the back of the store to turn the music off. We use a little bit of B12 magic. We now finally have the jacket, and we're off to go see Blaze. Now with the worker helmet and jacket, Blaze dresses up into the disguise, and now we're ready to go into the factory. We hop in a box, Blaze picks the box up, passes security at the factory entrance, and finally, we are inside the darn factory. Man, I hope this kitty cat is getting paid, because man, that was a whole lot of freaking hard work. Let's go, kitty. Let's go. Now, there are different missions and activities that you'll do while you're actually staying in this place. Some of the missions will be done in a place like a factory where we went on Clementine's mission. Some of them will be done inside of the city quarantine zones, like the slums or Midtown where most people live. And some of them will be done outside of the city quarantine zones, which from what we already know about them, they're dangerous and Zurks are chasing you and all kinds of things. However, all of these missions really help to tell the story and really help to drive things forward in helping you to understand exactly why we're here, why there are no humans, and what really happened to the society before all of this. Inside of the city quarantine zones, like Midtown or the slums, you'll meet and speak to a lot of people like I showed earlier, but you'll also find a lot of things that help to teach you more about the world. Things like memories, these green-like glyphs that are up against walls or in certain places that ultimately B12 can scan, which will ultimately help him remember his own history and his own past in this place, which plays a very important role in understanding what's going on here because there's a lot more about B12 than what meets the eye. You'll also find these things outside of the city, but most of them I found in the city, and you'll find them in different places throughout the environment. Even right here in this small little bowl of soup, there's a memory that B12 can use to actually remember some things about his past life, along with some things from the old world, like some bad soup that wasn't the best for your digestive system, and things that happened before B12 ended up inside of the computer system where he was trapped for quite a while. There's also other items you can find around the city, like those energy drinks that I was telling you about earlier that you can find inside of these random vending machines that are just sitting around the city. You go up to the vending machine, tap on the buttons a little bit with your little kitty cat paws, and then boom, an energy drink comes spewing out. You know, this kitty cat knows all the tricks. I mean, I wish it was that damn easy for me to get a freaking drink out of a vending machine. This cat's got way more talent than the rest of us. There's even those music sheets that you can find for the character Marusk that I told you about earlier, and if you find them, he plays the music for you. And you can ultimately use these energy drinks and some of the other items that you find to take back to some of the vendors and trade them in along with other items to actually get some rewards in return that you'll need along your mission. Take for instance Grandma here, who's willing to sew us a knitted sweater if we give her some electrical wire that we found earlier in our journey. Oh crap, it says poncho. I'm sorry, not a sweater, but a poncho. You know what I meant. Now, who do you know doesn't enjoy a really good poncho? Especially all the warm and fuzzy things we'll see on our journey, right? Aw, thank you, Grandma. You're so sweet. Later on, I even found a place in the back of a store where there was a code that you could translate, which once you took this code to a safe on top of a shelf in the back of the store, you could open it up and find a cat badge. I guess that's supposed to go along with that police badge we found earlier? I don't know. Cat badges? Police badges? Strange. Then, of course, like I talked about earlier, there are the translation points or translation markers that give you some information about the local area or the local politics. They could also give you a sense of direction or let you know about certain dangers up ahead. Take, for instance, this translation marker right here that says that the access to the sewers is condemned because of the proliferation of the Zurks, and we darn sure do not want to be bothered with that. Even though somehow I can kind of see that in our future. I wonder. Of course, there are missions that take place inside of the factory that we went into earlier, where we have to try our best to sneak around drones that are shining these lights, and if we don't, we'll get caught by them. So little kitty cat has to be a little slick about things. And sometimes I'm not really all that slick because I almost got caught by this one. Run, kitty, run. While we're trying to run from these drones, we also have to do things like pull down switches throughout the factory so we can open up secret doors, and ultimately deal with a lot of dangers that can ultimately kill our little kitty cat friend. We even get to solve some clever little puzzles while we're there too. And this puzzle we have to solve here is actually quite elaborate. Well, at least for a cat, it's quite elaborate. First, we grab our little box buddy here, so that we can use it to jump over this gate. We hop up on the box, then hop on top of the gate to jump over. And jump onto this lever to pull it down to open up the gate so that we can grab the box inside. We bring the first box over to this square so that we can bring down the lower piston. Then we bring the other box over to this square so we can bring up the upper piston. We hop into this barrel and we ride that bad boy all the way to the other side of the room to bring it onto this other square. We move this box over here to this other square just to move it around a little bit to bring down the other piston. And now we can go and grab our little prize. Go kitty. Oh crap, never mind, we got caught. Dang, we can't have nothing nice around here, can we? And of course, there's the great outdoors of outside the quarantine zone, which I can definitely tell you, it's not all that great. At least not on a friendly level great. We get to run from Zurks, we get to deal with a couple little puzzles here and there, and while we're trying to do those puzzles, we'll have to try our best to avoid the Zurks, which I guess that just comes with the territory, but either way, the kitty cat has to fight for his life and fight to understand what the heck is going on in this place. But ultimately, it is the least friendly place in this entire game. I mean, nowhere's really all that friendly other than when you're in the slums, or you're inside of Midtown, but this place is by far definitively very unfriendly. And there's a reason why they call this the Dead City, because you'll either live through all this dreary nastiness, or you are dead in the midst of this dreary nastiness. Now, I like the story of Stray and the characters that you meet, the places that you go and see, and the general understanding that you get once you see it all combined. However, I do have some complaints about some of the structure of it. Most of the story, and if anything, the more impactful parts of it, at least for me and in my humble opinion, are pretty much in the lore that you find, like the memories or the translation points or markers that you see. A lot of it is also in some of the places that you go to and you find certain information, like going into the apartments and finding certain information. And like I said, some of those conspiracies going on. Even when it comes to the police and the whole way that they treat their fellow citizens. There's a social aspect and a social dynamic and a character dynamic here that isn't delved into that much while you're playing the game. It's delved into enough so that you can get a basic feel for this place, and all these other things that you do see do a whole lot of world building. However, all the world building that is done with all this stuff rarely gives you much interaction with it. Some of it became a gameplay element when it came to interacting with the characters or going on the missions. I just didn't think for me enough of it became a gameplay element. When you look at the main storyline, like seeing Clementine or talking to the Guardian, even that mission with the young androids in the apartment building with the cameras, or all the other characters that you meet, the storyline that goes with them is narrow and very small in comparison to all the stuff that's in the lore. Now don't get me wrong, it's a good story. I just thought it was a little bit too narrow for my taste when it came to what all of the lore helped to really build this world up to be. And I really wish all that lore would come alive in the activities that you can do in this world. Ultimately, for me, in my subjective opinion, having this game be only about 4 hours for me to play through, I think if you speed through it, you can do it in about 3 hours, but I took the time to look around all the corners and find a lot of things. It's only understandable that yes, I wasn't going to be able to see a whole lot in this game, but it kind of made me wish I could have. It really did make me wish that there was much more in this game than just a 4-hour game, because all the lore really suggests a much broader scope and a much broader narrative than the one that you get to experience in the game. Now, if there's definitely one thing I will not complain about is the art style. The art style has this sense of almost solidified, grounded look to it, while also at the same time having a slight cartoonish look to it. Now, I don't mean cartoonish like something similar to Borderlands with its very cel-shaded and almost deliberate cartoonish look, but a slight bit of cartoonishness. And when you look at the oversaturated aspect of the colors, it really goes to showcase the art style is trying to make itself seem serious enough to make this place seem believable, while at the same time not taking itself too serious where it can come off a little playful and give itself a little distinctive charm. From the neon lights around the city, to the characters themselves and the way that they dress and the way that they look and the way they're animated, to even some of the scarier areas that look a little weird and ooey gooey, while at the same time having, like I said, a bit of that cartoonish look. That solidified look gives you that feeling that there's life in this place and there's a sense of personality and character like I've been mentioning throughout this video, but at the same time, having that slight playfulness does kind of lighten up the mood a bit, even when you are in those dank areas. And heck, even when you're in a dark area, there's enough color to give definition to things around you without making it seem too bleak and dark where you can't make out what something is. And that's something that I think is a great success when it comes to the art style. I really liked it, and it was one of the more impressive parts of the world building. Lastly here, I want to talk about the controls and some of the basic gameplay mechanics, which the controls are actually quite simple, which can be a good thing. I mean, it's a pretty basic layout. You can pretty much climb, walk your way around the environment, or run your way around the environment, interact in a very minimal fashion, and all those things are good and well, but I think that it holds back when it comes to some of the gameplay interactivity and adding more depth to the gameplay. And it's not to say that the gameplay doesn't give you any excitement. Trust me, there's definitely moments where you get some excitement. I guess I could just simply say I wish there was a little bit more of that interactivity. Take, for instance, the fact that there are very few buttons aligned to either the keyboard or the gamepad that you're using. Now, when playing this game, half the time I actually used the gamepad, the other time I used a keyboard and mouse. And those buttons are actually quite simple, which can also be a good thing because it means that you don't really have to put a lot of thought into remembering the controls. However, in that interactivity, there's a few things that I don't like when it comes to some games, and that's the inability to just freely jump. In this game, all of the jumping or climbing is context-based, in which case you can only jump up onto things that the game allows you to jump up on. And you know that you can jump on it when you see the prompt on screen. So I'm guessing when you use a PlayStation controller, I'm guessing you might see the X button prompt. I didn't use a PlayStation controller, I used an Xbox controller, but you'll see the prompt A to climb up onto something or to climb down off of it. If you're using keyboard and mouse, you have the space button that will let you know you can do that. Now you can turn this prompt on or off inside the menus, but I definitely think it's better to keep it on. Mainly because not knowing when and when you cannot jump onto something is kind of problematic, and that's one of the clunky aspects that I think some of the interactability when it comes to the mechanics of the game really fell apart for me. The climbing in this game is context sensitive, and with that context sense that you get with the prompts, that's one of the few pieces of information that you have when it comes to knowing where you can navigate throughout the environment. Like jumping on to something and thinking you can go in either direction, but not seeing the prompt, so you think you can't go in any other direction in that area, only to return, move the camera around a little bit, and realize, oh, I can actually go somewhere else over here. I don't know, it just makes the jumping mechanics seem a little clunky. So although it's not terrible, I just simply wish there was a little bit more freer movement when it came to the navigation system in the game. Overall, I liked Stray. The story, the characters, and even the environment and the art style, all of it was really, really great. I just do wish that the story was a little bit longer. I wasn't quite as satisfied with that. And at the same time, I wish there was much more to the controls, that you could do a little bit more. I'm just not the biggest fan of context-based jumping, but that didn't make the game terrible. It just, for me, it just made the controls feel a little clunky. But that's my take on Stray. And maybe all of you have an entirely different opinion. But hey, if you did like this video, remember, please hit the like button, please subscribe, hit the bell to be notified the next time I publish a video, and hit me up in the comment section and let me know what you think. Have you played Stray? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you not play Stray and it's just simply not your thing? And do you agree with me? Do you think that the game was great or bad, or maybe you have an entirely different opinion? That's entirely up to you. Again, these discussion videos are just simply my own subjective opinion. None of it's a suggestion of whether you should like or not like the game, or even purchase the game or not purchase the game. Also, while you're here, check out my other videos. I make a variety of different gameplay videos, and that's because I do play a variety of different games. At the same time, if you can share this video on your socials, please, I would greatly appreciate it. But as always, thank you for watching this video, and remember, until next time, this is Mong004, and I am out. Take care.